All right, guys, back to the shop this morning. We got a little bit of work done on the roll bar yesterday, and kind of got a plan on how we're going to do it. So Ben was out this morning warming the shop up, getting some other work done. So yeah, still pretty blustery here in Georgia. Turn that off. Yeah, 66 in the shop, warming up. Here's the tubing that we bought. Speedway Motors did a great job. I think this stuff was about, I don't know, 27 bucks a stick, I think is what it was. It seemed like a good price because my local guy couldn't touch that price. It was, steel's gone through the roof and hard to come by. I couldn't get it from Summit. Summit's been sold out for a while, so this stuff came out of, I think it came out of Florida from Speedway. They paid for the shipping. I bought 8 sticks of it, 1.75" outside diameter, 100 thousandths on the wall thickness. I think right there at 100 thousandths. And looks like it's gonna be nice pipe. It's not DOM, but there's not much of a seam on the inside. I'll show you that in a minute, but this is what we're gonna bend it with. Woodward Fab bender. I think we've talked about this before when I first got it. It's been sitting around the shop for a couple of months, getting ready to do this project. So Woodward Fab, swag, Fab adapter to put this ram on it. With the ram, you don't need to bolt the bender to the floor. You can, we made a stand here so we can roll it around, get it out of the way when we're not using it. But it seems to be working really well. A little bit of a problem with this pin. Once you put a pretty solid bend in it, the pin's under a lot of load, and we're having a hard time, pulling the pin out. So that's what Ben's out now doing, picking up a nut. We welded a piece of threaded rod to the end of the pin. Gonna put this sleeve over the top of it, use a nut to draw the pin out of the hole. Hopefully that'll speed the process up a little bit. But all right, there's the first piece of our roll bar, first part of the loop, the main loop. Got to duplicate that today and then build off from that. We got a little bit of a mock-up going. Let's see, here's a practice bend, or it's actually test bend. That's what we're using this for. We can tell where the shoe starts, where it ends, how much tubing it's going to take to get us to where we want to go. So here's the let's see, the other end's a little cleaner here. Yeah, so pretty good wall thickness. Stuff's pretty heavy. It is not DOM, so there is a little bit of a seam in here where they seam it together, but yet there's the seam. Just hardly nothing at all. Pretty impressive. Good stuff. Here's our mock-up. Got some pipe hung from the super lifter just to help us lay it out, and we put the seats in it, hoping to have the cushions and the covers by now, but that stuff's all out of stock from LMC, so waiting on that to get replenished so we can order it. But do have the seats mounted in here just to help us with the placement of the tubing. Got the wife in there. We're set up here to do our second part of our hoop, and we've measured out where we need our bends and at how much we need to bend it. So we're at 19 inches here at 10 degrees, and then down here at the 36.5-inch mark, we're going to bend it at 80 degrees to finish up our 90-degree bend. That's what we have on the right hoop here. 10-degree bend there, and then 80 degrees. That gives us a total of 90 degrees. Now we're using this seam mark here where it's been welded together, where the tube's been welded together, to make sure that we don't rotate it between the two bends and then wind up with a wonky piece. It should be fairly flat, so it works pretty good. We could use our digital inclometer here, but this works pretty well as well. Just line up the shoe with this weld mark here, which runs from one end of the tube to the other. All right, well, we've lined up our first mark with the edge of the shoe there. We've got our seam mark, or our weld mark lined up with our shoe, and we've taken the backlash out of our mechanism here and re-zeroed our pointer. So this is a 10-degree bend, and we're going to go really about 11 degrees to account for the spring back that we're going to get. All right, bend back the hydraulic ram. Oh, more spring back than we thought, huh? All right, 10 degrees, that's good. Now this is the point where we were having problems just kind of unjamming things here. We can pull the ram back, pull that pin out easy enough. And even when we loosen up this bolt here, put a little piece of copper in here to keep it from making a mark on our tubing here. But with the 10-degree bends, it wasn't real bad, but the more you bend it, the more tension, or actually I think what the deal is there more pipe that's kind of wrapped into the shoe, makes it harder to get it unjammed. So that's where we came up with this idea. You're going to see it for the first time here right now. Oh wow, that was a little longer socket may be required there, but the tubing is already loose, so we've already had a victory here. That worked out really well. It's been a struggle in the past. All right, we'll reset up and do the next bend, the 80-degree bend. All right, we're re-indexed here at the 36, I think it was 36 and a half inch mark. And now we're gonna bend this one at 80 degrees, which is gonna take 2 strokes of our ram here. There's just not enough length of it to get it a full 80-degree turn. I think we get, what, about 60 degrees out of it or something, 50, 60 degrees, and then we have to re-index it. But the good news is we don't have to change any of this stuff. You'll see it, you just using a different hole in the shoe here. We'll have to back it up 1 hole and then finish up the bend just because of the length of the ram. So here we go. All right, right at about, what, 60 degrees there, a little over 61 degrees. So now we'll just back the pressure off the ram. Then we'll pull that pin out, which always comes out easy. And then the shoe doesn't move. So you back it up to the next hole. Drop the pin in, and then close the valve for the ram, and then back at it. All right, went over, what do you go, 82 degrees or so? Yep. All right, now we're gonna back it up, or reduce the pressure on the ram, kind of see how it springs back. Ooh, right on 80 from this. Yeah, looks good. All right, so here's in the past where we've had difficulty getting this pin out. This thing's under a tremendous amount of tension. You can pull that pin out and retract the ram, but still a lot of tension between the shoe, the forming shoe and the die. And you can wiggle and prod and poke, and a lot of times, I've seen people on YouTube doing it as well, having to drive this pin out. But I think this retraction mechanism here is going to be the cat's meow. It's going to take a lot of work out of this. We backed this bolt out, then just backed it off, and still can't get this pin out. So let's see how this works. May have to wind up with a longer socket there, but I think the pin is almost out there. All right, so kind of plan B here with the crescent wrench to finish extracting the pin, but I think we'll wind up lengthening that socket, that deep well socket, so we can do this all in one motion. Still a lot easier than it was with the hammer and the wedge method or the pin. So all right, the rest of it comes right apart, comes right out. All right, well that last one we had to put back in the bender twice and just bump it a little bit, and it came out really good. We did have to cut it off. We didn't quite get it, I don't know, measured out right. Anyways, we had to take off about 3/16 of an inch off of one end, but now it lines up nicely. Bends are all in the right spot. So now we're going to try to figure out how to create a coupling to put these two together in the middle to hold them together. All right, we did wind up creating a bushing. I just turned a piece of round stock on the lathe to tap it in on both ends, and I did core it out so it wouldn't be quite as heavy, but stuck it in there, welded it together, and then we had to tweak on some of these bends here and there. I think what we're learning is when we bend it and get it to the right angle, it doesn't really, I mean, it relaxes significantly. And really, I think where it relaxes the most is when you pull it out of the die. I think we're going to have to keep tinkering with that to figure out how much we have to overbend it to get it to relax to where we want it. But all that said, we've had it in and out many times, and it's fitting good now. We mentioned earlier that I had to cut one end off. Well, that was a mistake. Wound up having to, originally I created a bushing to slide up in there, and then as the plan progressed, as I created these feet to hold it in the truck, I needed that inside diameter of the tube to be the same. So I hacked off, it was about, I guess, a 1/4 inch of tubing off another piece of tubing, and then welded it on there. So now we're back to where it should have been. I should use patience. That's the lesson. I should have had some patience, but it's all symmetrical and looking good. All right, there it is from the back view, and still using some straps and all different pieces of pipe to kind of mock it up. The feet are going to set in there like that to hold, 3 bolts to hold it down on each side for each leg, and then a bolt going probably just drilled through one side of the tubing into that solid rod that's in the middle, and then tapped. And the idea there is so we can pull this roll bar in and out as we need to. If you didn't make the feet removable on it, or these attach pads removable, then it would be difficult to get the roll bar in and out of the truck to remove it for painting and that process. So that's what we're going to do. 3 bolts there going through the floor pan, 1 bolt to hold the roll bar to that pad, and then we can remove it, the roll bar itself, fairly easy. All right, spent most of the day yesterday bending up these 2 pieces of pipe. 2 pieces of pipe, that's all. Well, more than that. I wound up making some more pads for the bottoms here, and some other odds and ends. Had to do a little bit of, just creating stuff to hold this thing in place. Ben's off at work, so it's me out here struggling by myself, and it's tough to hold this thing. It's like wrestling an alligator here. It wants to flip-flop around on you, so I've had to do all kinds of Mickey Mouse straps and tape and all kinds of, put some shims in here to keep the distance that I've wanted. But I think the best trick that I've learned here is this was going to be one angle here, and then it was going to have to kick out to the right a little bit and then down another angle. And boy, I was really trying to figure out how I was going to make that work. And you can, if you can master it once, then you got to duplicate it in the opposite direction on the other side. And what I figured out, or what I'm going to do anyways, is I put a joint right here in the middle, turn another splice to go in there so this thing can pivot. And then, man, once I did that, it was a piece of cake, really. Just this is a 55-degree bend here, and then about another, well, I think it was, well, I guess if we did the math, then it would be about, what, 35 degrees? Is that right? 50, 80, 90 degrees? I think that's about right. Something like that. But I bent it, and then I had to go back and tweak it. I had to tweak both of them a little bit. But I didn't have to worry about the orientation of it because it would pivot here in this joint, and I'll wind up, once I got it all set, which I do now, I'm real happy with the fit now. I just, weld it up, blend it out, and never know it was there. That joint right here is a fish mouth joint, and I cut it on the lathe, or actually on the mill. Yeah, I'll take some video of this, but I wound up making this. I went and bought a hole saw, 1 3/4 inch hole saw, and it was kind of wobbly, so I cut it apart, turned this on the lathe, and then welded it together so I could chuck this up in a collet. And boy, it works slick. So I'll take some video of that while I'm cutting, and it does a great job of 90-degree fish mouth joints or notch joints. I don't know what I'll do if I got to cut something other than 90 degrees, but right now I don't plan on having to do that. All right, so hey, the shop's a disaster. I mean, it's wrecked, but I'm making some progress, and I'll be able to right now take this back apart. Nothing's welded in here. It's all just held in here with bungee cords and straps with the lifter here, and I'll be able to duplicate this for the other side. All I have to do is measure that out, create the same bend there, the same bend here, and put the same joint in on the other side, and you don't have to worry about any of that compound bending stuff. So here I go. All right, we're laying on the messy floor here, or sitting on the messy floor trying to duplicate these pipes, and I came up with a neat little trick here I thought I'd pass along. But the inside one here, this one is the one from the right hand side. This is the new piece of tubing that we're trying to bend. Took several trips in the bender to get the bend just right, and it fits, snuggles in here, nests in here nicely on the inside and the outside. Now, all we need to do is cut it to length, and I held it up here the best I could, wiggled around, and was not satisfied with that. So put on my thinking cap and decided I would try this method. This is a piece of Schedule 40. I think it's 2-inch pipe. Was a little bit narrow. Wound up clamping it on a piece of pipe and then putting it in the toaster oven for a while, and it seems to have relaxed it a little bit here, and it works well for marking this tubing. I keep interchanging the term pipe and tubing, two different things. Tubing is measured from the outside diameter, pipe is on the inside diameter, so two different things, but forgive me. Schedule 40 piping, relaxed in the oven to make it just kind of snap on here. It works good for marking this tubing. I gotta think for a second where my mouth runs. All right, so we've got the pattern on the outside. It's snuggled in there nice and tight, and we snap this piece of PVC on. We butt it up against the end, snap it on, draw a line, and then move the pattern to the inside. All right, do the same process. PVC, Shelby. Snap it on, draw a line, and then measure between the two lines. Where'd they go? Right here. Between the two lines, and then cut that distance in half. So this is 1.5 inches. And then measure 3/4 of an inch in the center here, and that should be our cut line. So I'm going to give this a whirl. I think it'll work. It should work. We'll see. All right, I feel like that was perfect. It looks like it's right, exactly the right length. So let's move on to bend number 2. All right, I spent a good bit of time yesterday evening and most of the morning just measuring and squaring this thing up. And I got it where I was very happy with the numbers. So I went ahead and tacked it on all the joints. So this swivel joint, or the swivel joints on both sides, and then all 4 corners up here on the top. And I put some fairly lengthy tacks, about 3/4 of an inch there on all the joints, so it should be fairly stiff. I'm going to take the strapping off from it, and hopefully it'll stay put, and then I may throw some more tacks on the bottom side of these joints, and then I'm going to pull it all out of the truck, move it over someplace in the shop. Hopefully I can find some room, make some room, so I can rotate it around and finish up all the welding. All right, here we go. We're gonna TIG this thing together. I got my machine set up on about 70 amps, or right at 70 amps, running on 110 volts because my 220 plugs back in the other corner, but it seems to be doing just fine at 70 amps. And I got it attacked pretty well, top and bottom, so I can manipulate it, I can turn it, try not to have to fight gravity here, try to do as much of it as horizontal as I can. So a little segment, turn it, tip it on its side, whatever we need to do to try to keep things as much, closest to horizontal as we can. All right, roll bars back in the truck. The welding's done on these points here. And we've created a couple of new tubes coming down to attach to the top of the wheel well. And those are just tacked at this point. The feet are installed. We've drilled and tapped them. 5/16 18 bolt going in there, and a little bit of a stiffener here that I'm going to weld all the way around to give that bolt a little bit more support. Working on a spare tire rack now. Probably going to raise this up and kind of hold it or make it sit in there about the same angle as these down tubes here, maybe a little bit sharper of an angle so I can clear the tailgate. But yeah, that's what we're working on now, and I'm gonna get to it. All right, here's the setup to get hopefully these angles right. A little hokey here, using the lifter to hold it at the right angle, and hopefully I'm going to get a good cut here. Hey, that worked perfect. I'm super impressed with the way that mill and that cutter that we remade has worked on making these joints. Super tight in here, and this thing fits really well. A little bit of a gap here on this one due to the fact that when this tube gets bent, it widens it a little bit, so may dress that a little bit. But good joint up here, and both of these joints fit really well. I had to do, I put it back in the bender and tweaked it in probably another 1/2 degree because it was wide enough where it had a lot of tension on it when I pushed it into where it needs to go. But I think when I weld it up here, at least I'll tack it here in the truck, and then probably pull the roll bar back out of the truck to finish welding it. And I think that'll, because all the heat will go up here on the top part of this radius, I think that's going to even squeeze it in even more. Hopefully not too much. But anyways, real happy with that fit, and let's get to welding. All right, guys, it's been a couple of months since I finished the last video that I shot for this roll bar. Was kind of the forming of this Y in here, and I've been stuck trying to figure out how to create a spare tire mount back here. And when I got to the point where I just kind of mocked up a 35-inch wheel and tire assembly to see how much space it was going to occupy and how much restriction it would be on the visibility in the back of the truck, and it was pretty significant. So I think we're gonna move on, try to do something else. This roll bar was sitting around as I was trying to work through those issues and getting rusty, so we shot a coat of epoxy primer on it, and I may be done. I may not even put a spare tire mount on it, may just leave it as it is. But I'm going to put the video out, and hopefully it benefits some people down the road. Some kind of takeaways from this project was, you know, Ben and I looked around quite a bit for pre-made roll bar, and you know, somebody around locally that could build it for us. And it's really, I think it's really just not that difficult. And it's not all that expensive when it comes right down to it to get the tubing bender and the dies and all, and just do it yourself. You can build it the way you want. I mean, that's what we're doing out here, right? We're working on cars and trucks, and it's not that difficult to teach yourself how to do it. And the equipment's not all that expensive, and the net result is I think it's going to be cheaper, and you'll have more satisfaction when you finish at the end. So got a couple more videos. We've done a lot of work on interior pieces. The seats are recovered. Those videos will be coming out right after this one. Front seat recover and the rear seat recover. They're done upstairs, ready to go. I'm looking for somebody to paint the truck now. So we're real close to starting to put this thing back together for one last time. I hope everybody's doing well, and take care.